All right. So let's get this ball rolling, shall we? So lesson 6.1 is labeling triangles. The goal is I can label a triangle and write all three trigonometric ratios. So this is really the foundation. We need to know how to do this to do other stuff. Okay. So what is trigonometry and why does it exist? We are basically dividing each side by every other side. So we're going to take B and we're going to divide it by C. Then we're going to take B and divide it by A. Just different fractions like that. That's what this is about. If we change the angles in a triangle, the sides will get bigger or smaller. So if you think about that, if I took B and I pinched B between my fingers, here are my fingers, okay? I'm so good at drawing. Yeah, that's my hand, okay? Let's not question it. So if I took that and I pulled it like this, pulled it this direction, do you guys agree that this would end up becoming like longer like that if I took B and I pulled it? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you notice this angle is smaller. So this is big, and then when we stretch it, it gets really small. And then these sides get longer compared to this. So all the measurements change. But the interesting thing is that they change in the same way. And how they change doesn't really matter. There's fractions for that. But that's what this is doing, is it's figuring out how do the sides change as the angle changes. Okay. So these are the three different trigonometry ratios that we will talk about. There's other ones that are opposites, but these are the ones that we will talk about. So first there's sine. It's pronounced sine. On a calculator, it looks like this. Then there's cosine. It's pronounced cosine. On a calculator, it looks like this. And then there's tangent. It's pronounced tangent. And on a calculator, it looks like this. Now, the important thing with this, and it's not going to make sense because we haven't labeled any sides yet, but the important thing is that sine is always O divided by H. So the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. Cosine is always the adjacent side divided by hypotenuse. And tangent is always the opposite side divided by the adjacent side. We'll label all of these so that you understand, but this is just in the notes packet so that you have it. I also copied it on all the pages so that you can see it pretty clearly. Okay, so we're going to practice labeling the triangle's sides. What I mean by labeling them is the opposite adjacent hypotenuse. So we write op, hype, adjacent, ADJ. That's opposite hypotenuse adjacent. That's what that means. All right. So, okay, I'm just going to take a second. I'm talking a lot. I can hear that. So when we start to label these, we have to have what's called a reference angle. Reference angle is what you label from or based on. Okay, so here's an example. If we use A as our reference angle, so this is two separate triangles. We're going to do this 2 different times. Okay, if we use A as our reference angle, here's what we do. We would circle A. This is what I do still, and I've been teaching for 10 or 11 years. I circle the reference angle, and then these 2 sides come off of it. Those 2 sides connect at the reference angle. Which side is not touching angle A? Which side is not touching angle A?
The bottom one?
Yeah. A, lowercase a, right? So the one that's not touching is called the op. So an op is in like a cultural sense, like in like context of normal language, an op, I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but like an op is like the opposition, is like an enemy. So if you have an enemy or an op, you're going to want to keep eyes on them. So you'd want to be able to see them. If they're an enemy, you want to be able to see them. You don't want them right next to you. So that's how I think of op, is it straight across from that angle. You keep like straight dead eyes on it. But some people prefer to think of it as the side that does not touch the angle. That's the op. And then which one is the hypotenuse? Is it B or C? When I say B or C, I mean, is this or this the hypotenuse?
See?
Yeah. So I'm going to write hype right here. So we've got those two taken care of. That means the last side must be adjacent. Okay? So that's where we'll start. We're just going to start by labeling them. So now, if we use B as our reference angle, same exact triangle, but this time we use B as our reference angle. Which one is the op?
Lowercase b.
Exactly. And then which one is the hypotenuse?
See?
Mm-hmm. And then so that means the last one must be adjacent. So when I ask this question right here, what do you notice about the labels? What I'm meaning is, what do you notice about these three versus these three? What happened there?
Change.
Yeah, and specifically, Javaris, what changed? Can you explain? You are correct.
The B. I mean, whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called. The adjacent.
Yep. So the adjacent and opposite, like switched, right? So based on what angle you come from, the opposite and adjacent, they can switch. So those are kind of hard to keep track of. But I hope you guys noticed that the hypotenuse is the same. All right. So that's how we label those triangles. It's just the adjacent hypotenuse. So we're going to start this and we're going to go through the whole process. This is what it's going to be like on your quiz. Okay. So first thing, we're going to just do this example here. This one has a reference angle of A. The reference angle is A because it says sine A, cosine A, tangent of A. So what we're going to do is we're going to circle A. Then the second step says label op hype adjacent. So which one is going to be the op? Which number is the op?
4.
Mm-hmm. Okay, everybody in the chat for me really quick. So in the chat, I want you guys to put your answer, but do not hit enter yet. Okay, I want you to type your answer to my question, but do not hit enter. My next question is, which number is the hype, the hypotenuse? Which number is the hype or hypotenuse? Type it in the chat, but do not hit enter yet.
Which number is what?
Is the hypotenuse or the hype, this one. All right. So take 3 more seconds, put your answer in the chat. On 3, we're going to hit enter. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Good job, you 3. Yes. This is the hypotenuse. So that means that this must be the adjacent. Okay? So that, in my opinion, that's the hard part. Now, the last part is to set up the actual ratio. So you see this S right here? That's this S right here. O is on top, H is on bottom. O stands for opposite. What side is labeled opposite? What side is labeled opposite?
3.
Ooh, look again.
4.
You got it. And then that's divided by H. Which one is labeled hypotenuse? That's H for hypotenuse.
5.
You got it. 4/5. All right. The next one is C, cosine. That's A on top for adjacent, H on top for, or on bottom for hypotenuse. So for cosine, what is A adjacent?
3.
Yep. And H, hypotenuse?
5.
Got it. Last one, T is for tangent. Tangent. O for opposite on top. A for adjacent on bottom. So what is O?
4.
Yep. Over adjacent?
3.
You got it. All right. I'm going to have you guys walk through this next one. Okay. So this next one, our reference angle, in the chat, I'm going to ask you questions. Okay. So in the chat, I want your answer. Part 1 says circle the reference angle. So I want to know in the chat, what is the reference angle? Type it in, but don't hit enter. What is the reference angle? Type your answer, but do not hit enter. Okay, on 3, hit enter. 1, 2, 3. All right. So Lance, it's B on this one, and here's why. You see where it says B, B, B? That's how we know the reference angle. The purple one, it was A. So next thing we do is label. So if B is our reference angle, which one is the op? Can you guys type that in the chat? Which one is the op if B is the reference angle? In the chat. Good, 3. And then the hype. Type it in the chat. Awesome. Thank you both. I love how active you guys are. You guys are really active today. It's helpful. And then what's the last one need to be? What does the last one have to be? You can put it in the chat. Perfect. Adjacent. 4. Okay, and then we set up our fractions. So let's do, again, sine. So sine is S. So, S-O-H. So O goes on top. What's going to go on top, you guys? You can speak or you can put it in the chat. Nice. Yeah, you jumped straight to it, Javar. So O is opposite. So that's 3. Over H is the hypotenuse, which is 5. So the next one is cosine, which is C. This guy right here. A goes on top. What is adjacent? Adjacent is 4. Yep. Good. Adjacent is 4 and the hypotenuse is still 5. And then last is tangent. T, O on top, A on bottom. So O is 3. Good. O is 3.
3/4.
You got it. And remember, we just had said that they flip. Notice this and this, they just flip. But it's fine. You don't need to memorize that. It's just interesting. That's all. Okay, so that's what we're doing is setting those up. Take a picture if you guys want to. I don't have completed notes because I was kind of having to make this up the past couple days. So there isn't like a completed one. So if you're going to want these, I would take a picture. Okay. We're going to do just a couple more. I want you guys to do these with me, and then I'm going to ask you guys to actually here. So I'm going to have us do this together, and then I'm going to have you do this one by yourself and check your answers with me. All right, so reference angle in this one is B, B, B. So that means our reference angle is B. Second step is to label op hyphen adjacent. So the op is here. The hypotenuse is always across from the 90. It's always across from the 90. And then this one has to be adjacent. And then when we do so or sine, sine is opposite over adjacent. So opposite, I'm sorry, not over adjacent, opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite over hypotenuse. So we're going to go 5 equals 5 over 13. Cosine, this one, is adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent over hypotenuse, which means 12 over 13. And then the last one is tangent, T tangent, opposite over adjacent. So we're going to go opposite over adjacent equals 5 over 12. Okay? So what I want you to do is the same thing. I'm going to set a timer for 3 minutes. So if anyone watches this video later, there's going to be a 3-minute pause. You can fast forward if you want. But I'm going to set a 3-minute timer. I want you guys to try to do the other ones so that you can check your answer. This is what your quiz will look like when we're done here. Okay? So you need to make sure you know how to do this. So everyone's doing this for the next 3 minutes. I'll put on a timer here. Nope. I'll start that over. Don't worry, guys. I don't want that. All right, go ahead. 3 minutes and do this one for me.
That's Mina
Yep.
on a quiz.
Yep.
Question 4. There's 5 choices.
Again?
Yeah.
I was doing that late last night too. Okay, I'll try to fix it. Just don't do it right now. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. If you guys finish, if you want to put it in the chat, then we know. So if everyone finishes and there's still a minute, then we'll stop. But put it in the chat when you're done. Okay, 15 seconds, you guys, if you're still working. Oh, that is unpleasant. Oh, I'm not a fan of that. Will not be using that timer again. Okay, so you guys, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through this, and then what I want you guys to do in the chat is to tell me how many out of 3 you got right. That's a lie. I'm going to do a poll. So you can't answer this until I'm done. No one can see your answer except me, and I can't even see it until later. So there's 3 things: sine, cosine, and tangent. I want to know if you got 0 of them correct, if you got 1, 2, or all 3. Okay, so I'm going to save this. I'll go through it, and then I'll show you the poll after so you can vote. Okay, so here the reference angle was A because A. This is your op because it's not touching A. This is the hypotenuse, because it's straight across from the 90-degree angle. It's pointing at the 90. And that means this must be the adjacent. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite over hypotenuse. So 7 over 25. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent over hypotenuse. So 24 over 25. And then last is tangent. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. Opposite over adjacent. So 7 over 24. So those are the 3 solutions. These are the 3 that I'm talking about. 1, 2, 3. I want to know if you got all 3 right, if you got 2 right, if you got 1 right, or if you didn't get any correct. Okay, so I'm going to launch that. No one can see your answers. I won't be able to even see it until later. But this is what your quiz is going to look like. So hopefully you guys took that seriously. So the poll is in the upper right corner. Okay, I have 4 votes so far. 4 votes. We have 10 students. So we should have 10 votes. We've got 5 so far. I think actually, you guys, if you're zoned out and you're not listening right now, can you please tune in? Listen to my words. You need to take this poll. This is your attendance. You need to take this poll. This is your attendance. I will not use Infinite Campus today. 7 votes so far. Just waiting on 3 more. I'll go back, sorry. Okay, last call, you guys. Answer the poll question in order to be counted present today. Otherwise, you will be marked absent. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay. So we got 7. It looks like most folks got them correct. Whoever said 0, if you want to hang out afterwards, I can explain a little bit better before you take the quiz. These are some examples of questions that you might need to do. I'll show you one really quick. Here's the only difference. With these, you'll notice we're missing this side. In this case, that's the C because it's across from the 90-degree angle. So we would need to use the Pythagorean theorem to find this third side. So we get 81 plus 144 is C squared. It's 225. And when you square root those, you get 15. So that means that this side is now 15. And you can go about making your ratios. So the extra step is that you find a missing side. On your quiz, I did not have you do that. I simply had you establishing the ratios. Okay, so I'm going to stop this recording for right now. And the quiz 6-1 should be available for you guys to take. Stop recording really quickly.